Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green. You're tuning into AMTV Live, Alternative Media Television. It is, of course, Thursday, August 18th, 2016. Got some hard-hitting stories for you today. Donald Trump is going to war with the mainstream media. And I've been up all night. I've been racking my brain. I've been investigating the truth about these latest additions to the Donald Trump campaign. And I think it's a huge win. I think it's a huge positive. It is happening, and they are positioning key people at exactly the right time. We're going to dig in today. Key acquisitions in the name of Stephen Bannon, former Goldman Sachs executive. I'm going to dig into that. I know what you're saying. Goldman Sachs, Christopher, we demonize Goldman Sachs. I'm going to get into that. I think, again, key acquisition. We're going to talk about Kellyanne Conway, a veteran Republican pollster. But most importantly, we're going to talk about how you are winning. The American people are winning. Donald J. Trump is winning. Alternative media is winning. We are seeing this huge political vacuum right now. Donald Trump has been riding this wave at the perfect time when the country is dividing. I talked about this in a previous video that even if Donald Trump loses, and I honest to God hope that I'm wrong, I think that he can win. I think he's doing everything right. We are seeing the polls narrow. But that even if he loses, this will be a win for America because we are seeing a great divide. People are fighting back. They are tired of this the PCers, this politically correct culture, where the mainstream media, owned by the same banksters, propel the exact same message over and over again. Tell us things, impregnate in the minds of our children, for example, that everybody's a transgender. Yeah, everybody wants to cut their dick off now and, wear it as a belt or hang it from their shoulder or wear it as a hat. And here's the thing. As a libertarian, as a freedom fighter, I don't care. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you're black, you're white, I don't care what religion you are, what sex you are. I don't care about any of those things. But like most Americans, and it's the reason everybody's on the Trump train, and I'm not a cheerleader for Trump, okay? I've openly criticized Donald Trump many times. Some of you didn't like what I've had to say about him. Things like he's an egomaniac, that, he is very boastful about his accomplishments, and he's had a lot of failures too. He's a little bit of an a-hole. But I think Donald J. Trump is in it for the right reasons. And he is riding the coattails of a massive movement in this country that is radically transforming American politics. And there's a reason why he's teaming up with Breitbart, AMTV, and others, InfoWars, etc. You know who I'm referencing. Because he knows the power of the mainstream media. Malcolm X, I'm paraphrasing a bit, has talked about things like the mainstream media is the most powerful entity on the planet. There's absolute truth to that. And there's a reason why Donald is partnering with new media, with alternative media. Because it's how we win. The people are marching on the ground. We see this when Donald Trump speaks. We see this at his campaign rallies. Compare it to Hillary in her rallies where barely anybody shows up. And then look at the overflow at the Donald J. Trump rallies. You see, the mainstream media doesn't want you to know and doesn't want you to believe that Donald Trump is winning. It's why the only response they have is to say things like, and this is a headline article from CNN, was their response to the latest acquisition of political operative and former head of Breitbart News, Stephen Bannon, that Trump has been on a 27-day spiral. Yeah, that's right. According to CNN, Anderson Cooper, Don Lemon, Wolfie Blitzer with a sexy beard, Donald Trump is spiraling out of control. He's been spiraling out of control. This is hilarious for 27 days, even though he's winning. Well, here's my question. According to what poll? Because the polls I'm looking at from Rasmussen and a recent USC poll put out the question there, who's winning, shows that they're neck and neck. 44% to 43.4%. with a margin of error. A lot of these polls have a margin of error of roughly, 3% or so. So they are literally neck and neck. But according to CNN, Donald Trump is spiraling out of control, even though he's winning, even though great people, and we're going to get into detail about Stephen Bannon here in a minute, are the latest strategic addition to this movement that makes up the freedom fighters, those of you supporting alternative media, those of you that value and cherish a constitutional republic, value the history of our founding fathers, value the fact that we kicked the crap out of the redcoats to get away from tyranny, kings and queens. We are winning. The movement is winning. Even the polls suggest so, but the mainstream media doesn't want you to know it. Again, the only thing that they can do at this point, which is exactly why they're doing it, is to say things like Donald Trump is a racist, or not true, by the way, at all. Or they'll say things like he's anti-Muslim because he wants to prevent, not true at all, again, he wants to prevent radical jihadi terrorists from coming into our country, murdering, maiming, and potentially slaughtering innocent men, women, and children. There's nothing anti-Muslim about that at all. It's anti-terrorism. Again, another lie, another rabbit out of the hat that the mainstream media is pulling. They're saying things like he's anti-Semitic, which is laughable. His daughter is married to a Jew. He does business with Jews. His friends, family, business associates are Jews. If anything, we can argue the exact opposite. You see, none of it is based on truth. CNN makes up stories, just like they did with the Milwaukee riots recently, which is kind of boring me to tears a little bit, because that's a part of the game plan, this, divide and conquer strategy, the race war, etc., where CNN actually pulled a literal lie, just like the con job, the plant that was positioned on behalf of Hillary Clinton at the DNC convention, and actually lied about the young African American that was killed. Tragically, it's still a tragedy whether or not he was a thug or not, that his sister was promoting peaceful protest when in actuality she was calling for people to burn down the suburbs. I mean, bold-faced, actual, legitimate lies. You see, the mainstream media misconstrues everything. It's a warped perception that they put out into the minds of the American public or you abroad. It's all conditioning. It's psychological warfare. What they don't want you to know is the mainstream media is losing, viewership is collapsing, and you are winning. The movement is winning. New media, alternative media, organizations like Breitbart are winning. So let's get into this latest acquisition. Stephen Bannon, a very impressive figure, by the way. Very interesting history. About 62 years of age, from Virginia, current residence, Laguna Beach, California. Alma maters, Virginia Tech, bachelor's, Georgetown University, master's, Harvard Business School, MBA. Stephen K. Bannon, businessman, media executive, and conservative filmmaker who is currently the chief executive of the 2016 presidential campaign of Donald Trump. He's a co-founder and executive chairman of the Government Accountability Institute and the former executive chairman of Breitbart News. He's worked on films about Sarah Palin. I believe he is a part of and behind the latest documentary, Clinton Cash, which I haven't seen yet. I'd be actually curious to see if anyone in our audience has seen it, if you think it's worthwhile. I've heard it's really good. I want to see it. A guy who used to work for Goldman Sachs, he was in the merger and acquisitions department at the time. This was before the bailouts. This was before 2008, 2009, who had moved into media and took over for a guy who was murdered by the name of Andrew Breitbart. Yeah, you heard me correctly. You remember Andrew Breitbart saying, I've got videos, we are going to vet him, paraphrasing a bit, but that he was going to destroy Barack Hussein Obama's presidency. He was going to get the truth out, but then winded up dead. They say he had a massive heart attack or something. Just very convenient timing. While he was vetting, remember this all came out at CPAC. Murdered. Who took over for him? Stephen Bannon. He has grown Breitbart exponentially. Again, the new media, alternative media, is winning. What this puts on display is how divided the country is. And it's putting on display how weakened the mainstream media truly is. How CNN, MSNBC, Fox News is truly losing to you. The people have had enough. They're demanding real change. So the mainstream media pulls this rabbit out of the hat. I mean, they're literally just making stuff up. There's this giant article, which is headline news, about Donald Trump's 27-day spiral campaign, which is completely untruthful, according to the actual results of recent polling. It is neck and neck, whether or not you're looking at the recent USC poll or you're looking at the Rasmussen polls. They go on, they talk about how the spiral's begun, how he had a message for Moscow, even though they're totally taking it out of context, where he suggested on Twitter that somebody should find the leaks, whether or not that's Russian intelligence or somebody else. Like, we're supposed to believe that the NSA can't find the missing emails, that they should leak the tens of thousands of emails that Hillary Clinton blew up, that got rid of, that she deleted by creating her own intentional infrastructures to hide the truth from the American public. During the time of Benghazi Gate, another conspiracy. She had the thick glasses on. I'm going to get into her health in a moment. Misconstruing events like Donald Trump is encouraging Moscow intelligence to raid, the files of American intelligence or something like that digitally. They just pull this rabbit out of a hat. Trump versus the cons, right? Trump making a comment that the wife wasn't speaking because she's a Muslim, totally misconstrued, taken out of context, brain warped, even though Khan himself, a con job, is a plant working for Hillary Rodham Clinton. And it's amazing how effective that propaganda was. It was actually one of the most effective pieces of propaganda Hillary's campaign put out because the American people believe it. A good portion of the American people, they're such drones. They don't think for themselves at all. And then it continues. The list continues. After the con job, we have taking on Paul Ryan and the endorsement issue. And what they call plummeting poll numbers, even though the polls say he's winning, and suggest that the race is neck and neck as they go to war in these battleground states. The list goes on. Again, CNN is the Clinton news network. That's all they are. They're a big promotional tool for Clinton. And yet Hillary will say, and her campaign will say, now that Donald Trump has joined Breitbart, that he's only continuing this racial divide in the country and, getting together with this bad media giant that makes up Breitbart, when she has the Clinton News Network working for her. See, Donald Trump, a media maverick, knows how important the media is to his successful bid and hopefully his eventual win of the White House in November. Folks, we only have 83 days or so, 83 days until we get the next president of the United States. There was an interesting article that we'll get to here later on in this show about get ready for the era of the BITCH. Get ready for it. Not my words, the actual article. We print it out. Either that or Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump's already put it out there. Hey, the election's rigged. That's why he needs activists. That's why he needs help. And I do think it's rigged. But it doesn't mean that he can't win. It doesn't mean that he can't do it, especially with these latest acquisitions. Stephen Bannon, former Goldman Sachs banker, which I know, there's going to be some criticism there. But I just want to point out, and if you look at his actual track record and history, one of the monumental changes in his life, which actually spurred him into action, was the 2008-2009 financial crisis, where he decided to go to war with the mainstream media. It's one of the reasons he took over Breitbart after the death of Andrew Breitbart. And I'm sure he knows the truth about Andrew Breitbart as well, even if he won't admit it publicly. But he was so angry. He was so pissed off, like many of us were, like I was, of the 2008-2009 financial crash and crisis that was engineered by these elitist bankers only to rape us, to bend us over, to steal from us through quantitative easing and a $700 billion TARP program, followed by multi-double-digit trillions of dollars, which are still being spent to this day. I've seen estimates of 29 trillion plus. I've seen estimates of 60 trillion plus, depending on what you're researching and what you're looking at. And so what I see after racking my brain all night and knowing of this individual prior and really studying it, unless I'm missing something, let me know, but I don't think that I am. This is a legitimate, positive transition at a pivotal moment for Donald Trump's campaign. Everybody's saying that, he needs to pivot. He needs to be more mainstream. He needs to basically appease himself, appease the GOP base. Why would he even try to do that? The GOP party, as it's been, has been failing miserably, as we saw with Mitt Romney's campaign in recent years. The Republican Party, in my opinion, will never win again in its current form. It's why Republicanism really doesn't exist. Even though Donald Trump's on the Republican platform, he's really running an independent platform, a freedom-based platform, a liberty-based platform. So these are fantastic acquisitions, and these are some very high-profile and high-level people. And again, I know a lot of people are going to look at the Goldman Sachs Association, and yes, we demonize Goldman Sachs, and for good reason, because they're more powerful than the Federal Reserve. They really are an evil entity with its talons and everything. The financiers of all these bailouts. But when you really look closely at this individual, at Bannon, you'll see the truth. You'll see that he's got an axe to grind. And I just want to remind you, people, there are good people out there, folks. Former bankers. Many of you probably know I was a former banker. I used to work for Merrill Lynch. And in 2008 and 2009, I gave him a giant middle finger. And because I was so roused and riled up and angry by what I just saw, got a brilliant idea that I would start something called AMTV, Alternative Media Television, which we've been going on since nearly 10 years. I look at people like Stephen Bannon and researching him, investigating the behind the scenes. I can identify with him. It seems like he's trying to push forward the same good, positive message and movement and help Donald Trump cement himself as the next president of the United States, instead of just allowing us to continue a third term of Barack Hussein in the membrane Obama. So I think that it is a good thing. Another fabrication taken out of context and misconstrued by the mainstream media was this whole idea that Donald Trump was calling for the Second Amendmenters, the 2A'ers, to assassinate Hillary Clinton, God forbid, which we know is bullshit and we know is not the truth at all. They even took that one guy, the older gentleman with the gray hair in the background, because he kind of looked like, wow, like I can't believe he said that, and had him on CNN. Because, you see, it's CNN that is the hateful organization. It's CNN that is the propagandist, that is losing viewership, eyeballs, because nobody trusts them. And the only defense the radical left has, and Andrew Breitbart, if he was still around today, if he was still alive, would say this, I'm pretty confident of. I can't speak for him, but I'm confident of. The radical left has nothing left, nothing in their toolbox outside of pulling a rabbit out of their hat and saying things like Donald Trump is a racist. He hates Muslims, even though none of that's true. He's this radical. He's a, loose cannon. How dare he encourage Second Amendmenters to potentially assassinate Hillary Rodham Clinton? None of it is true. All of it is baseless. And it's BS. And you're smart enough to understand that truth. So the latest acquisitions are really shaking up the Donald Trump campaign. Remember, there was originally Lewandowski, right, who was kind of, in this scandal with a Breitbart reporter, it was, by the way, but Breitbart actually criticized her and she later resigned. Pretty much she was essentially fired. You remember how he, allegedly had pushed her or something like that, even though he didn't. He was just doing his job. Now he's a commentator on CNN. He's still, in promotion of Donald Trump. But there was a shakeup where they brought in Manafort. And now they've shaken up and brought in these other key individuals like Stephen Bannon. I've got to go to a quick break. Stay tuned. Again, Donald Trump is at war, goes to war with the mainstream media. We'll be back in just a minute. Please support our sponsors. I'm Christopher Green. You're tuning into AMTV. Give us a few.
Visit our sponsor, Bonner & Partners, right now at cashcutoff.com. That's cashcutoff.com. Bill Bonner's research network predicted the fall of the Soviet Union, the rise of Muslim terrorism, the Japanese crash, and the financial meltdown of 2008. Now his firm Bonner & Partners has published a more dire warning. What happens in the event your ATM doesn't work, your credit card is denied? What if you can't sell your investments? Although this might sound implausible to some, it's a very real possibility. A run on cash. Think about it. How do you pay for goods and services if credit doesn't work? Who among you, your friends and family, actually have more than a few dollars in their pocket? Claim your full intelligence file right away. Get 4 research reports, plus the free book, Hormageddon, and a 12-month all-access pass to the Bill Bonner letter for just $49. It's risk-free for 60 days. Get the Great American Credit Collapse, the Crisis Money Guide, how to get your own homestead on the cheap, and much more. Click the link below right now to register at cashcutoff.com.
Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton want your guns. So protect your guns with the Safe and Vault store. That's safeandvaultstore.com. This month only, 10% off select brands and products with our August special law enforcement appreciation. Coupon code LAW10. That's coupon code LAW10 and 10% off select brands and products. Click the link below right now. Offer expires August 31st, 2016. Check out these dope bags from Fox Tactical. These aren't ordinary bags, but high-quality, military-grade, tactical, and outdoor combat gear for preppers and enthusiasts. Used for recreation or as a bug-out bag for a worst-case scenario. The bag I use? Fox Tactical. Click the link below right now and visit the AMTV store, store.amtvmedia.com. That's store.amtvmedia.com. Check out the Fox Tactical Weapon Combat Case, Fox Tactical Discreet Covert Ops Backpack, and more. Enter promo code FOX10 at checkout and get 10% off your order through the end of Labor Day. Offer expires September 5th, 2016. That's FOX10 at checkout. Click the link below right now and visit the AMTV store. Hey everybody, we are back. I'm Christopher Green. You're watching AMTV Live. Let's get right into it. So, there's been this campaign shakeup, which I think is a huge boon, is a huge positive. Again, I've been racking my brain all night. I've barely slept. Investigating all these key high-level figures. I think this is an absolutely positive move for Donald J. Trump at exactly the right pivotal time. People are saying he needs to mainline. No, he doesn't need to mainline. He needs to continue doing what's been working, what has been destroying his GOP competition and essentially destroying the GOP party. He had Lewandowski, who was later pushed out, replaced by Manafort, who is, people say, has been demoted now, but is still working diligently on behalf of Donald Trump. They're now just repositioning several key individuals. Stephen Bannon, a very prominent figure, now the CEO, chief executive of Donald J. Trump Political Campaign Co., and people like Kellyanne Conway, veteran Republican pollster, as campaign manager. The alternative media working in support of Donald Trump. What's the response from the mainstream media? Oh, Donald Trump's racist. He's a divider. He's an anti-Muslim. He's anti-Semitic. This is from Breitbart. Clinton's campaign manager, Robbie Mook, opened a conference call with reporters by calling Breitbart a so-called news site that trafficked in conspiracy theories, pull the rabbit out of the hat, and began smearing the journalistic company with the usual leftist attacks on Republicans and conservatives. Quote, Donald Trump has decided to double down on his most small, nasty, and divisive instincts by turning his campaign over to someone who is best known for running a so-called news site that peddles divisive, at times racist, anti-Muslim, anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, invented obviously by the CIA to discredit the truth. Again, this, folks, is the only response that Hillary Clinton's campaign and the Clinton network that makes up CNN can come up with, because they have nothing left. They're getting their asses kicked and they're losing. The only thing they can point to is divisive rhetoric. They're divisive rhetoric. You see, they're the dividers, not Donald Trump. Donald Trump is uniting the American people. It's why he's winning. It's why he's taken the world by storm. Now, there was another story, and this is even being propelled by Fox News, which people think, is just this conservative network pro-Trump, that Manafort, one of Trump's advisors, had helped to funnel money to U.S. lobbyists from pro-Putin Ukrainian party, report claims, which is total and utter BS. Because if you know anything about Ukraine, and people argue with me about this, but it's the absolute god-awful truth, Putin never invaded Crimea. The United States of America invaded Ukraine and helped to topple Viktor Yanukovych, like they do all the other countries in the Middle East, for example, with the continuation of the George W. Bush wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and places like Yemen and Syria, which they're actively campaigning to take out Bashar al-Assad, just like what they did in Libya with the gun trafficking. I mean, you guys know the entire story. You see, Clinton and her campaign, Barack Obama, and Hillary the third term, they've been engaging in illegal activity for years. Blowing up her emails, illegally targeting conservative groups, etc. But they want to take the eye off that ball and somehow suggest that Manafort, who was doing business with the rightful leader of Ukraine at the time, has somehow been doing business dealings with that president. Well, what's wrong with that? He was the rightful president of Ukraine until the United States of America began funding and arming the terrorists on the ground, what they call moderates, and they've now admitted to for years. The story goes on. Again, this is coming from Fox News. This isn't even CNN. Donald Trump's campaign chairman helped a pro-Russian governing party in Ukraine secretly route at least $2.2 million in payments to two prominent Washington lobbying firms in 2012 and did so in a way that effectively obscured the foreign political party's efforts to influence U.S. policy. The revelation, provided to the Associated Press by people directly knowledgeable about the effort, comes at a time when Trump has faced criticism for his friendly overtures to Russian President Vladimir Putin. It also casts new light on the business practices of campaign chairman Paul Manafort. This is all Hillary Clinton could dig up, and it's nothing. It's hogwash. Again, they just want you to take your eye off the ball of the real truth. You know, they don't want you focused on, example, Hillary's health. People ask me, "Oh, Christopher, are you a doctor? Can you make these diagnoses? You know, the diagnosis that Hillary is fit or unfit?" Well, to answer your question, no, I'm not a physician. But guess what? I'm just as transparent as her physician that works for her and then tells the American people everything's okay. It's almost like she's auditing herself. You see, I think there should be an independent physician that relays the health of Donald Trump, relays the health of Hillary Clinton to the American public, because it looks like Hillary Clinton needs to take a nap at noon every day. Yet she wants the most powerful position, the most stressful position in the world. We as the American people have the right to ask. I mean, even if you're pro-Hillary, for crying out loud, you should know the truth about her health. It took journalist Paul Joseph Watson to put out a viral video to put this into the public sphere and create the discussion that this lady, who factually had a blood clot in her brain, in her skull in 2012, who allegedly fell, had the concussion, and then took her 6 months to recover, and is on blood thinners, to put that into the public sphere so that we could have a debate about it. She looks like hell. Her head is bobbling around like somebody who obviously has something wrong with her, not just with edited footage that you're seeing. I mean, sometimes they edit this footage, they take it out of context, and we put this on AMTV. I've watched, studied, and we've aired it, the real unedited footage. She is obviously having some kind of seizure-like event. A real issue, real problems. But nobody wants, to talk about it. Well, that's the power that the media has. Again, it's one of the reasons alternative media is winning. You are winning. And this has created a giant political vacuum, which is pushing, hopefully, Donald Trump to that enormous, hopefully, landslide victory against this tyranny. Again, our founding fathers would be proud. Instead of rolling over in their graves, they probably have big boners right now. They're just so excited. I mean, think about it. Our founding fathers, radicals, not PCers, not the political correctors, not the mainstream media telling you and telling your children that, everybody's transgender now and everybody's gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's the message that they're pushing. They're also advocating Hillary Clinton, who is bought, paid for, and sold by these banksters that own her. Now, Trump's latest acquisition, Stephen Bannon, is a defector. There's a difference. He defected from Goldman Sachs. He's got an axe to grind. He is going to war with the mainstream media establishment and the political establishment. There's a difference, and you can see that through his actions. Big, big difference. They call him a rookie campaign chief who loves to fight. As the American financial system collapsed in the fall of 2008, Stephen K. Bannon began to fantasize about destroying something else, the elite economic and political establishment that he believed had created the crisis. Mr. Bannon, who was named Donald J. Trump's campaign chief on Wednesday, was at the time a highly improbable revolutionary, a wealthy former Goldman Sachs banker, and a budding filmmaker. But his blue-collar Southern roots tugged at him. Panicked by the swooning market, his father, a telephone company lineman, a blue-collar guy with no college degree, had sold much of the stock in his retirement account at that time. And Steve, Mr. Bannon, felt that it was outrageous. His former business partner and longtime friend. It was the start of a remarkable reinvention that turned a polished corporate dealmaker who once devised $10 billion mergers on Wall Street into a purveyor of scorched earth right-wing media who dwells in the darker corners of American politics. Well, you know, those dark corners are becoming the light. Somebody sent me an email yesterday and about an article about how it's just so amazing that, you know, a person in a basement with a webcam could grow into a legitimate media enterprise, like what we've seen from Breitbart, like what we've seen from AMTV, like what we've seen from InfoWars, like we've seen from this movement. Again, it is a movement. The alternative media is propelling Donald Trump. You are winning. At the same time, the country is dividing. A very important, pivotal, remarkable event in American politics in the history of this country. While we question rest time for Hillary, so there's no more public events for Hillary until Sunday, the American Mirror, with 83 days to go. What's she doing for the next 96 hours? She just held a rally in Cleveland, Ohio, where she struggled to fill a high school gymnasium if it wasn't for hundreds of students. But according to the schedule tracking website, Hillary's Speeches, she doesn't have another event announced until Sunday, when she'll make a Massachusetts fundraising appearance with Cher. She's apparently prone to exhaustion. Again, this is a very stressful job, being the President of the United States, which may be why she has no events planned. Discussing the Democratic National Convention, Clinton recently said during a campaign podcast, quote, "By the end of those 2 weeks, that's exactly how I felt. It was, oh my gosh, I don't know that I can get up, let alone what I will do if I am vertical." Hashtag Hillary's health. They're putting out a meme right now. She always has a stool with her. She's always being propped up by pillows. Doesn't look well. Looks ill. Again, suffered a blood clot. This is all admitted factually by her people. Her husband now running for the most powerful position in the history of the world. Dr. Drew spoke on this. I don't think they were expecting him expecting these findings, but saying that he was gravely concerned about Hillary Clinton's health. Board-certified medicine specialist and TV personality Dr. Drew says he is gravely concerned about Hillary Clinton's health, noting that the treatment she has received is bizarre, kind of explaining her bizarre behavior, and could explain the weird side effects that people are seeing. Appearing on KABC's McIntyre in the Morning, the host of the show were expecting Dr. Drew, known as America's most trusted physician, to debunk claims that Hillary is having significant health problems. But Pinsky instead dropped several bombshells. Pinsky said he and his colleague, Dr. Robert Huizinga, had already analyzed what medical records on Hillary had been released and were gravely concerned, not just about her health, but her health care. Pinsky noted that after her fall, Hillary suffered from a transverse sinus thrombosis, an exceedingly rare clot that virtually guarantees somebody has something wrong with their coagulation system, almost guarantees it. What's wrong with their coagulation system that has been evaluated, asked Dr. Drew, adding that Hillary was being given weird medication that could be exacerbating her health problems. And here's a question I put out on a cell phone video that we put out, our last video. If this is the case, if Hillary Rodham Clinton and the establishment figures supporting her and funding her have known this in advance, and there's legitimate health issues, and that she's really suffering from these types of things, seizures and concussion-like events and the after effects and side effects and symptoms that we're seeing now on camera, why would they position her to take the fall? Because it's a possibility. If this comes out and there's more truth to the pudding of this, she takes the fall, and what happens next? Who replaces her? Is it Joe Biden? Is there more drama? Is this something that the political establishment had planned all along? I think these are good questions. I'm not saying I necessarily have the answer. Although I think there was a lot of good questions asked in the comment section, for example, in the video that we had put out just a couple of days ago. But there's questions that need to be asked. Again, we're not looking at a healthy person, folks. We're looking at a person who is suffering, who's now applying for the most difficult, stressful job on the planet. Who, by the way, is a criminal and is never prosecuted. Mr. Comey saying that he doesn't think that she had intent, even though she committed a criminal act, which should put her in jail. Even though her husband is a known and alleged rapist those people, the Clintons, Bill doesn't look too healthy either. This is where this country is headed, folks. And again, people like myself, people like Stephen Bannon, many of you tuning in, the great majority of you are riled up. It's a good thing. You're angry. There's also a healthy sense of fear that this country is going in such a horrible, divided direction that we need to change something, and we need to change it now. Real change, not the Obama, hope and change BS that was sold to us, but we really need to help swing this pendulum back from this extremism to Americanism. Again, because the country's been hijacked, folks. There is a infiltrator in the White House today. There is a Manchurian candidate. We've been taken over. There was a strategic coup. And this is what is so exciting about what we're seeing with Donald Trump's campaign, because now he's positioning media, financiers, political operatives. He's putting together a strategic team that has the power to overthrow the evil and replace with the old what this country was founded on: liberty, freedom, a radical bent that made up the founding fathers, and hopefully an open, liberated society where big government stays out of our business, doesn't force anything on us. It was interesting. I was watching last night a town hall for the Green Party, and I don't agree with everything that the Green Party stands for or anything like that, and I certainly disagree on many points with Jill Stein, who's running for president. But she did point out something very interesting in the town hall, and I think in a very convincing way, something that we talk a lot about on this channel. She said that the Federal Reserve should essentially buy and forgive all student loan debt in this country. And, the CNN host is like, oh, that's kind of outlandish. How are they going to do that? Well, she said it was just done with the bank bailouts. $700 billion with TARP, multi-trillions of dollars since then, quantitative easing, 0% interest rate, still continuing today. The number grows exponentially overnight. The national debt has doubled since Barack Obama took office. Well, if they can print money into infinity and monetize the debt from nothing, and they tell us there's not going to be consequences to this, even though they're lying. Of course there'll be consequences. We will become Zimbabwe. We will become the Weimar Republic. There will be inflation, if not hyperinflation at some point. But she said if we can do that, if we can save the banks, we can take care of them so that they can borrow at 0 and then lend at 7% to you through student loans and God knows what else, maybe 19, 20% or more with credit card debt and those kinds of things. Why can't they just extinguish student loan debt altogether? And she's right about that. They could if they wanted to, but they don't want to. See, they rape you on the downside and then they rape you on the recovery. Notice also how the stock market, the financiers that own Hillary Clinton, have rigged it leading up to the election. Totally rigged. It's levitating at new all-time highs. There's barely been even any new volatility. It's just trickling higher. And the reason is, if the market crashed today, or if they let it, it would work against Hillary Rodham Clinton's campaign. And the establishment elite know they can't let that happen. So it's my opinion that right after the election, November, whether or not it's Hillary Clinton in office, or I would think even if it's Donald Trump in office, it all falls. In fact, if Donald Trump gets in, they'll probably really let all hell break loose, and then they'll just blame it on him. They'll say it's Donald Trump's fault. The racist? The guy that's anti-Muslim, even though none of that's true. He just, common sense. These are common sense things. Then they let it fall. Hey, they might even raise interest rates at that point. Remember, they've been telling us that for years, even though they've only raised 25 bips, and it's still essentially at 0. And they just continue to monetize this debt through inflation over and over and over and over and over again. The size of the bank bailout, folks, again, estimates from minimum 29 trillion, if not more. Again, I've read reports far more than that. It is absolutely outrageous. And people know that the country is headed in the wrong direction, which is why they're on board with real change. It's why they support Donald Trump. And again, I don't think Donald Trump is perfect. I've been a pretty severe critic, to be honest with you, of Donald Trump. But I think he's legitimately in the race for the right reasons. And he is making all the intelligent moves, strategic moves that he needs to make right now at a very critical and important time and pivot in this campaign at a time when the polls are narrowing and these larger issues on Hillary Clinton's health are being pushed out into the consciousness. Thank God for the alternative media and forcing the mainstream media to address it. It's also kind of interesting from a fallback standpoint. Donald Trump, the media maverick, the apprentice, the celebrity, etc., is going this direction because I think even if he does lose, which I don't think is going to happen, I think he can win, even though I think he's got all the odds working against him, and then it's rigged to Hillary Rodham Clinton. He's also kind of positioning himself in a fallback role where he'll just continue to go the direction of the media, which is really interesting because, again, the media controls everything. The media has all the power. It's why these financiers, the same ones that own Hillary Clinton, own the media. It's why CNN is a propagandist network for Hillary Rodham Clinton and her husband and others. So it's really interesting strategically to see him basically transition and pivot with this group of people who I think are the right people that can lead Donald Trump to victory. I honest to God think this is the greatest thing that we've seen happen. They'll say things like Donald Trump is this unabashed nationalist, is what the mainstream media will call it, using the word nationalist, because it kind of, they're not saying it, but what they're really saying, or they're trying to tell you, is that he's like a fascist by using the word nationalist. It's interesting when you look at a political spectrum. In fact, I was looking at them last night, whether or not you're looking at, a Y, x-axis, or, like you can even look at these pie charts where they kind of, they break it up, so you can see on the spectrum, if you're conservative versus your, of liberal mindset, and then kind of on the outer borders, it leads to, socialism, communism. It gets kind of like more and more radical, and it goes the same direction on the other side of the scale, all the way up into fascism. But you see, the mainstream media, because they have nothing left, and they're losing so bad, have to pull that rabbit out of the hat and say things like he's racist and basically just misconstrue everything because there's nothing else to talk about. They can't hide it anymore. Perfect example, last night when CNN should be talking about Hillary Clinton's health, but they'll give and dedicate no coverage to it, what's their main headline story? It's about U.S. swimmer Ryan Lochte and the fact that he made it back to the U.S. after winning a gold medal in a relay with 3 other guys, and how 2 of the swimmers had to be deported in Rio. That's the story, a non-story. That's the major headline. They're not talking about Hillary's health. They're not talking about her seizures. They're, I think, giving less and less attention to his blowout events as well. I'm not seeing, unless you're seeing something different, as much coverage of, again, the movement on the ground. I heard that Donald Trump's recent speech, although I haven't watched all of it, but some of it was just probably one of the best political speeches that a man or woman has ever given. But there's been no coverage dedicated to that at all. You're only getting divisive rhetoric, the same accusation that they make of Donald Trump, by the mainstream media. Isn't it interesting that Tim Kaine, Hillary Clinton's running mate, once said that cheating politicians should resign, including Bill Clinton? The Democratic vice presidential candidate is pretty much part of the Clinton family at this point, but in 2002, he said Bill Clinton should have stepped down in the wake of his affair with a White House intern. Bill Clinton should have resigned over the Monica Lewinsky scandal, at least. That's a view Tim Kaine once held. Kaine's remark, reported 14 years ago in the Richmond Times-Dispatch in the aftermath of a state-level sex scandal, hasn't drawn any attention thus far in the 2016 presidential cycle. But it suggests Hillary Clinton's running mate at one point harbored reservations about the integrity of the man poised to become the country's first gentleman. Kaine commented on the Lewinsky scandal in 2002 when allegations of sexual harassment had rocked the Virginia House of Delegates. Speaker of the House, Vance Wilkins, at the time, was a Republican power broker who had just helped his party flip the House and build its majority after Democrats had historically controlled the chamber. The story goes on and on. It's important to know because remember, specifically regarding Hillary Clinton's health, there was a news outlet, maybe you've heard of it, and a guy named Matt Drudge of the Drudge Report who broke originally the story of the Monica Lewinsky scandal. And what did the mainstream media do at the time? How did they respond? They called it a conspiracy theory. They basically said it had no credibility. They laughed until more leaks kept coming out and Drudge kept pushing it, and it just became sheer fact until it destroyed Bill. I think the same thing is happening with Hillary's health right now. Now that it's in the public sphere, they're doing everything to backtrack. They're using misdirection, straw man tactics, arguably. But I think it's starting to leak. I think Hillary might be positioned quite literally for a fall at this very moment. The most extraordinary, and I really think this is kind of an upbeat thing. I mean, seeing how alternative media is winning, I think is an upbeat thing. I think is an amazing proposition. And I think all of you tuning in around the world really need to kind of pat yourself on the back a little bit, because we are witnessing a transformational shift in America today. We've got to go to another quick break. I'll be right back. I'm Christopher Green. You're watching AMTV Live. Please support our sponsors and support us below.
Hi guys. I have a very important message for you today before our video from our sponsor, PointZeroEnergy.com. Download their free informational kit right now. It's free. You have nothing to lose. How to create an off-grid system you can bet your life on. What would you do, God forbid, if the power went out for a day, a week, or maybe a month? Do you know what type of equipment that you would need? How much power you would need to power your appliances, your refrigerator, your stove, your air conditioning? Again, hope for the best, but plan for the worst. Click the link below right now. Download your free informational kit. Visit our sponsor, Infidel Body Armor, right now. Get the AMTV Armor Kit Special because it's sick. Save big. Get the Viper Modular Operator Plate Carrier, your choice of color. Infidel Level 3 curved armor plates, 10 by 12 inch, front and back AR 500 steel with 1/4 inch build-up standard, tactical trauma individual first aid kit, and AR 15 magazine pouches, enough to hold 6 30-round magazines. Infidel Body Armor just won't quit. Call 1-888-608-6605. That's 1-888-608-6605. Or click the link below right now. Lifetime warranty, free shipping.
Check out these dope bags from Fox Tactical. These aren't ordinary bags, but high quality, military grade, tactical, and outdoor combat gear for preppers and enthusiasts. Used for recreation or as a bug out bag for a worst case scenario. The bag I use, Fox Tactical. Click the link below right now and visit the AMTV store, store.amtvmedia.com. That's store.amtvmedia.com. Check out the Fox Tactical Weapon Combat Case, Fox Tactical Discreet Covert Ops Backpack, and more. Enter promo code FOX10 at checkout and get 10% off your order through the end of Labor Day. Offer expires September 5th, 2016. That's FOX10 at checkout. Click the link below right now and visit the AMTV store. Hey everybody, we are back. I'm Christopher Green. You're watching AMTV Alternative Media Television. Again, support the cause. Get these hard-hitting Fox Tactical bags at the AMTV store. These aren't, your PC pussified bags. I mean, these are hardcore military grade, tactical, call them backpacks, call them whatever you want. But this is what I use when I'm out hiking. You can use it as a bug out bag. There's in all kinds of colors. There's another unit we've got in the store, which is a hydration pack. Awesome bags. Again, when I'm backpacking, it's with Fox Tactical. So please support us in the store. Buy a t-shirt. We've got dozens of t-shirts in the store now, all kinds of different designs. We've been moving a lot of the hashtag He'll Know, or hashtag Oh He'll Know, or hashtag Heil Yes. I think we're putting hashtag Heil No into the store. So thank you again for your tremendous support. Again, folks, we are winning, but only because you support us. Let's get into the era of the BITCH. This was an article that came out from the Atlantic. The era of the BITCH is coming. A Hillary Clinton presidential victory promises to usher in a new age of public misogyny. Get ready for the era of the B. If Hillary Clinton wins the White House in November, it will be a historic moment. The smashing of the preeminent glass ceiling in the American public life. A mere 240 years after the nation's founding, a woman will occupy its top office. And, I've talked about this for a long time. Obviously, it's kind of like a pro-Hillary piece here. That isn't it ridiculous and outlandish that the whole message of Hillary Clinton and her campaign is that she's got a vagina? That's the whole message, that literally she's going to win because she's the first woman. She has a vagina, allegedly. Again, I don't know if this can be proved or not, but that's why the whole establishment is behind her. Just like how they positioned Barack Obama as the first black president. I mean, why is it even an issue? Why is there so much divisiveness being propelled by the mainstream media to divide and conquer in the first place? I mean, when are the American people going to wake up, and people around the world? I do think it's happening. I think it's why we're winning, that we are all fighting and working against a common enemy. It doesn't matter if you're black, or you're white, or you're Latino, or you're Asian, or you're a Christian, or you're a Jew, or you're an atheist, male, female, gay, transgender. I mean, nobody cares. We're all fighting the common enemy, just like Jill Stein, I think, poignantly pointed out in the Green Town Hall. It really is the truth. You see, the media, people like George Soros, the financiers, don't want us to unite. That's how we win. That's why they are funding and focusing on these destabilizing events, whether or not it's in Europe with mass migration, or it's the destabilization efforts in the Middle East, or it's what we're seeing here in the United States of America with this engineered race war propelled by the current administration, which will only be continued by Hillary Clinton. They go on to say Clinton victory also promises to usher in 4 to 8 years of the kind of down and dirty public misogyny you might expect from a stag party at Roger Ailes' house. Now, Ailes actually also on board with Donald Trump's campaign, who's an advisor to Donald Trump, that again has recently conveniently been painted in this horrible light, that he's been like attacking women or something. Again, is there any evidence to prove that? It seems perfect timing that he'd have his foot out the door with these allegations. Because again, they want to position everybody a part of Donald Trump's campaign. They want to demonize him. But the real demons are already in power, are already in control. And I think that's the point. I think people are understanding. I think this is a huge positive. I think that this is a radical moment in history where there's so much energy, and now we have the alternative media now supporting, which has been from the very beginning. I think it's why it's ushered in Donald Trump to this, potentiality now where he can potentially win. It's all changing. All of this, support and you out there in the streets, not just digitally, are making this work. It's truly an amazing time. Again, CNN overlooking key stories, like the fact that the United States under Barack Obama held cash until Iran freed prisoners. The exchange was tightly scripted and specifically timed to the prisoner release. New details of the $400 million US payment to Iran earlier this year depicts a tightly scripted exchange specifically timed to the release of several American prisoners held in Iran. The picture emerged from accounts of U.S. officials and others briefed on the operation. U.S. officials wouldn't let Iranians take control of the money until a Swiss Air Force plane carrying 3 freed Americans departed from Tehran on January. Aren't they talking about this? I thought that Barack Obama did not negotiate with terrorists, even though he just did, even though they're arming and funding them on the ground, even though there is a war that they started in Ukraine, which is now boiling over as a flashpoint for a much greater, larger conflagration in this part of the world, all organized by the United States through their destabilization efforts and U.S. covert ops. Again, we saw the same thing in Libya with the ouster of Muammar Gaddafi. We see the same thing now in Syria, which has cost many, many lives. It's why they're clamping down on the internet. I've got an article here from the Washington Examiner, America to hand off internet in under 2 months. The Department of Commerce is set to hand off the final stages of American control over the internet to international authorities in less than 2 months. Officials have confirmed the department will finalize the transition effective October 1st. The move means that the internet assigned Numbers Authority, which is responsible for interpreting numerical addresses on the web to a readable language, will move from U.S. control to the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, a multi-stakeholder body based in Los Angeles that includes countries such as China and Russia. What they position to us as our enemies, but they're going to hand this off. Now, again, thinking about this, I was just thinking about this morning, I think why it's so positive that the movement is growing the way that it is, because it combats this kind of thing. right? I mean, all the odds are stacked against us. All the odds are stacked against Donald Trump, AMTV, Breitbart, InfoWars, et cetera, for a reason. They are actively censoring us right now. They're making it so difficult. But the movement is growing so large. There's so much force and brawn behind it that there's more strength in numbers. And I think that's what's happening, is that everybody's getting together now on the right side, and we're seeing this pushback, and we're seeing the pendulum swing in the other direction to give us a balance. It's why, we set up our government in the way that we set it up in the first place, so that there's checks and balances. There's a check to tyranny, as our founding fathers knew that, if a long enough time passes, that tyranny again would present itself. We'd have the same kings and queens staring us in the face as we do today that we were fighting against when we declared, a revolutionary moment in American history in 1776. At the same time, fears of an all-out conflict in Ukraine are saber-rattling Vladimir Putin as he places 40,000 troops in armored vehicles along the border to defend himself and a very strategic ally in the name of Ukraine, and an ousted president, rightful president, in the name of Viktor Yanukovych. This will be the equivalent of Vladimir Putin setting up shop in Canada, arming groups on the ground, political groups, and then overthrowing the current leadership, and then the media portraying it like America, because they want to defend their ally, had invaded Canada. I mean, that's exactly what the United States did in Ukraine, arming the terrorism that created the watershed moment that ousted Viktor Yanukovych and overturned the government, and then all they do is blame and point a finger to Putin. It is so ridiculous, and it's so non-factual, and it's not even a real story. And people argue like, well, of course Putin invaded Ukraine because the mainstream media told me that they invaded Ukraine. No, none of that is true. Among the units deployed to the area are armored vehicles, tanks, and fighter jets. Navy Captain Danny Hernandez told the Washington Free Beacon that the exercises were being closely monitored. He said, "We are extremely concerned about the increasing tensions near the administrative boundary between Crimea and the rest of Ukraine. We urge both sides to avoid provocative steps or rhetoric that could escalate the situation." They call it the Putin's Purge. Shock as Vladimir Putin sacks his chief of staff after years in the Russian president's inner circle. Brits no match for Russians. The article goes on and on. Well, we've been talking about this for a long time. War, how this was all and has been all a byproduct of the engineered financial collapse that occurred in 2008, 2009, something that has motivated people like Stephen Bannon and people like myself and many of you tuning in. This was all an engineered byproduct, and there was no stopping. I mean, think about this. We talked about it with Steve Forbes. I mean, the next president of the United States inherits a global conflict. Are we going to be better off with Hillary Clinton, or are we going to be better off with Donald Trump? I mean, they try to paint Donald Trump like he's going to press a red button, which is crazy because that's all Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama have been doing. All they've been doing in recent years, through the two terms, is pressing buttons, continuing to press the button and continuing the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and Yemen and Syria and all these places. Yet they portray it like Donald Trump's the one that's going to, launch the nuke. There's so much evil, and I ask myself this all the time. I mean, why are these people so evil? Why are people like George Soros doing these kinds of things? Like, what motivates them? Is it just Satanism? Is it just a total evil nature? I mean, what's motivating, power, money, greed, all these things, motivating these people to be so hateful, to divide countries and to overthrow countries, and that results in, people getting killed? Why would anyone want this? I mean, why don't the good people on planet Earth want peace? We live in a fallen world. This came out today. Leaked board documents point to the Soros organization that they tried to buy Supreme Court ruling on illegal immigration. Open Society Foundation's Hungarian-born billionaire George Soros stated vehicle for progressive social change orchestrated a well-funded attempt to secure a desired outcome in a U.S. Supreme Court case on illegal immigration enforcement, according to a newly discovered memo between the organization's top U.S. officials and board members. George Soros attends a meeting with finance and development ministers, international partners, and the presidents of Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea. The February 2016 memo was among thousands of internal OSF documents released to the public by anonymous hackers whose stated goal is to shed light on one of the most influential networks operating worldwide. OSF U.S. Programs Director Ken Zimmerman and Deputy Director Andrea Batista co-authored the memo, which is addressed to the 14 advisory board members of the organization's U.S. operations. And the story goes on and on. You just look at this man, and how do you just not throw up? You know, funding this instability overseas, funding this instability in the United States, helping to bring this mass migration, this illegal migration to the United States of America. And then, you know, Trump suggesting to do a common sense thing, which is to build a wall to keep people out of the country. I mean, if you tried to cross the border in Russia, they'd shoot you. Now here in the United States, we give people benefits. Like, come on all over. Come on into the United States. We're going to give you benefits. You know, not in these other countries. You can't even migrate there. Again, you'd get shot. You know, is it just money? Is it just power? Is that all these people want? Are they really, you know, working for Satan and the devil themselves? You know, it's just so disheartening to see, and this is what I think frustrates me the most in American politics today, is just, number one, how dangerous it is, how violent it is, how black it really is, like just how dark of a place is what I mean that it is. How there's just so much hate on both sides, and people, you know, disguised through the mainstream media, just believe this common narrative that's coming from the mouthpieces that make up CNN, Fox, MSNBC, et cetera, and they don't ask any questions. You know, I think that's what's a shame. Although we're winning, we're seeing massive change. I think Donald Trump likely becomes the next president of the United States. You know, it's really a terrible time for the country. A time when we are literally dividing and are literally divided. And whether or not Donald Trump gets into the presidency of the United States or not, that's the reality of where the country is today. And what happens next? I mean, play both scenarios. Hillary Clinton gets in, not a good scenario. A continuation of the same policies, the same wars, the same bailouts, the same Obamacare, et cetera, ad nauseum. If Trump gets in, he inherits world war, global conflict. They let the bottom drop out of the U.S. financial system and the global markets, which they're obviously just holding up by its, you know, coattails right now for a reason, because it benefits Hillary Clinton. He inherits a divided country. You know, I think Donald is doing this. He's got to win the election first, but I do think he's uniting a lot of good people. I mean, the way that he's filling up stadiums, the way that there's so many people rallying to support him, the way that alternative media is backing him, it's an amazing thing. And I think it's what's positive. It's the positive coming out of all this darkness. Because it's tough sometimes. I'm guilty of it too, not to feel defeated. You know, not to feel like, you know, these people are too powerful. You know, what can we do when there's this intricate web and it's, you know, it's been going on for years and, you know, it's being, you know, financed by these people and it's controlled through the establishment media and the political structure as it is today. But, you know, I woke up this morning, even though I haven't slept much, honestly feeling very refreshed because I do see things changing. I see this shakeup as Donald Trump goes to war with the mainstream media as a huge positive. I see the addition of, you know, the latest people that he's added as a positive, as a win, as a boon. I've seen organizations grow like our own, AMTV and Breitbart, go from nothing to something, which is a really, really big deal. I mean, who would have thought some dude in his basement with a webcam, 2,000 plus videos later, could have a legitimate media enterprise? It's kind of unheard of. And, you know, this isn't the only organization. There's so many of them. We're taking over what has been largely controlled by just a handful of people for so long. And now is our chance to truly make a difference and to thread the needle at a time when all the odds are stacked against us. And I have to remain hopeful. I have to think positively. You know, I have to pray. I have to think that we can do it. And I really, really think that we can. You know, you see us trying all these new things at AMTV. We are pushing the envelope right now. By the way, we are really stretching for you guys. This live show is not easy. This is the second or third time we aired today because the other streams went down. You're aware of that if you've been tuning in all day because we've been trying to get this to you. I mean, all the odds are stacked against us. Actively, we're being censored from the, you know, 5 major tech companies that are monopolies. Funding is a problem. We need your support. That's why I'm, you know, constantly harping on you guys. Support us. You know, Support us through our store, the AMTV store. Support us on demand, on our website. Support us. We need your support. All the odds are against us. All the odds are against Donald Trump. I mean, think about it. Donald Trump is a billionaire, and he still has all the odds against him. He's still having to bring in key people, and still the odds are against him. He's bringing in former Goldman Sachers, and still the odds are against him. He's filling up stadiums, and still the odds are against him. I mean, that should tell you something, folks. I think it's headed in a positive direction. I really, honest to God, think that we are winning. Yes, the polls, I think, are rigged, and they might rig it Hillary's way, which I've largely predicted. I'm probably one of the first people to say it. I think just like Donald Trump says, they're going to pull the strings. You know that they can do it. We know that they can manipulate. If you do a general search on Google, Hillary is you'll get like, Hillary's a good person. Hillary is great. All these positive strings. If you go on Yahoo, a competitor, it's like Hillary is a liar. Hillary conspiracy. Hillary email scandal. It just goes to show you how controlled, how integrated this web is. Again, everything is working against Donald Trump, and it's actually why I think he's winning. It's kind of crazy because the people know it. Every time CNN launches an attack, every time they try to discredit him, every time a member of the GOP party says they're not going to support him, every time they call him a racist, an anti-Semite, every time they do any of these things, it just emboldens his supporters because they know it's a lie. They know it's not the truth. And we're penetrating the establishment narrative. It's why Single Video, and I got to give kudos to Paul Joseph Watson, spearheaded this whole open questioning of Hillary's health. One dude with a webcam. That's pretty freaking awesome. That's the power that we have. That's the power that you have. Yes, it's sad that the country is divided. It's sad that we are engaged in, literally, I think, not just figuratively, a civil war in this country. It's saddening that people are so angry that there's this war of words. I think if we were honestly to look closer at ourselves, we need to come together. As cheesy as that sounds, but we need to come together on both sides of the aisle and realize we, on both sides, are not the enemy. We, the people, have a common enemy. And we know who those people are. And the more we get together, the more we join forces, the more we support each other, ushers in the change, ushers in that powerful electric moment in American history and politics, ushers in Donald Trump as the next president of the United States, changes things. The media changes. We get real opinions, real truth, real questions. We all grow together. We transform and become something needed and something that is truly amazing and valuable. And at the end of the day, even though we can't always see the light at the end of the tunnel, one thing that's always guided me, and I'm sure has guided a lot of you, is your faith alone, that there can be a better future for our children. There can be a better future for this country. I'm Christopher Green. You've been tuning into AMTV Live. Again, thanks for tuning in. Thank you for your support. We've tried to get this live stream up multiple times today. Such an important story, so much positivity, so many good things happening as Donald Trump goes to war with the mainstream media. Thank you so much. I'm Christopher Green. Get it out everywhere. Make it viral. Click the links below to support us. And as always, screw you, Bill O'Reilly. Hard hitting and in your face is mine. Peace.